Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Roberts. I'm here with my fabulous friend and co host,
Quodicia Johnson.
and we're back yet again with another episode of Taking the Stage with Christian.
And Quo. As we begin every episode, we will begin this episode with a land and people acknowledgement. We do this not to place blame, but to tell the truth so that we have the opportunity to connect, to heal the harm, and to move forward together. So I do want to take the time right here, right now, in this space to say that Dallas is on stolen land. We are on the land of the Caddo, of the Wichita, and of the Comanche sovereign nations, nations of people who live the full human experience, nations of people who faced horrible conditions, including genocide and policy that allowed for the forceful removal of themselves from their land by any means necessary. The land was not given, it was stolen. We want to take the time to acknowledge this, but to also acknowledge the beautiful nations that are still here in Dallas, that are still here throughout the entire nation of the United States of America. I also want to take the time to acknowledge that people were stolen from their homes and brought here to Dallas and forced into free and enslaved labor. And from that free and enslaved labor, we have what we enjoy as Dallas. Again, Dallas is not alone in this, as in the entire nation of the United States is on stolen land and benefits from stolen labor. We take the stories of these people with us, as we say so often. My last name is Johnson, not because my ancestors' names was Johnson, but because I am a descendant of those individuals who were stolen. Same for Miss Roberts here. So we do thank you for joining us in this land and people acknowledgement as we tell the truth, as we heal the harm, and as we move forward together.
And we thank you for joining us for this episode. We also always want to give a shout out to TDO staff and leadership. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you, audience, for continuing to support us and watch us and interact with us. We would not be here if you did not continue to watch. So thank you so very much for joining us week after week for these episodes and for these topics that can sometimes get a little on the controversial side. We don't find them controversial, but I know they can get a little uncomfortable. So thank you for being here and being willing to engage and continue to listen to us talk about some of these things that can be difficult at times. And speaking of, just to roll right in today, I want to bring up what we're going to be talking about today. This episode is going to be a little bit different. We've always enjoyed having you all talk with us in the comments section, leaving your messages in chat when we go live. And we would like that to happen with this particular episode. So we are introducing a challenge this week. So, Quo, would you like to tell them what our challenge is? And this challenge is in honor of Juneteenth.
Yes. So one of the things we wanted to do was provide opportunities for us all to learn collectively, but then practical tools and tips so that we can actually apply them to what we're doing and how we're wanting to create greater equity in our spaces, but also how we want to see the ways that operate and what we do and who we are intersects with so many things. That's the point of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this week's challenge, we have a challenge for you. It is called the complete narrative. And what we are going to do, which we've spoken about so often, is look at the complete narrative. We know the importance of narratives. Narratives are the stories that we learn, the things that we're told. And we know that what we learn, especially at a young age, starts to shape how we view the world, how we engage with others. And we are finding collectively, the royal we, the big we, that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the narrative is incomplete. A lot of stories have not been told. A lot of things have been left out. A lot of communities, a lot of people, a lot of identities, a lot of events have been left out deliberately. So we
Yes.
want to take the time to actually make sure that we go through the process of learning more and of completing the narrative. As Christian said, this particular episode is inspired by Juneteenth and the fact that a lot of people did not know about Juneteenth, or a lot of communities. It's very big in the African American community, of course, but a lot of communities did not know about Juneteenth. We here in Texas have a direct connection to that. So, in looking at the ways that narratives start to shape so many things we think we know or we think we understand, also understanding that the importance of Juneteenth focuses on the fact that enslaved people were left out and that enslaved people were not free. Enslaved African people, enslaved people of African descent, we're not free. So, as we're looking at the challenge that we have for this week, it is going to be about learning, it is going to be about completing the narrative, and of course, it's going to be about truth telling. So, the steps that we have for this week's challenge. Step number one, we would like for everyone who wants to participate in the challenge, who wants to complete the challenge, to find three separate sources of information to learn about Juneteenth. And when we say three separate sources, we want to make sure that you're expanding what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to seek, or what you're wanting to know. So that includes what is happening or what was happening in your particular state or your particular part of the world. Hello, everyone. Your particular part of the world during this time. This also includes what your family was doing, if you know, if you're able to track your family, trace your family. This also includes what was happening with other communities at this time. So much of the narratives that we have only focus on one thing or they're only told from one perspective. So engage this week. Engage with Juneteenth, engage with the stories and the narratives of Juneteenth, and make sure that you're finding different sources so that you yourself can learn and expand your knowledge and your awareness, but also so that we can get to the point where we're completing those narratives. So that's step one. Go and find sources, at least three. And as we get to step two, take time to sit in what you learn. Take time to reflect. Take time to, instead of respond and instead of reacting, to truly sit and consider what this means for yourself and what this means for other communities, those that were left out and those that are now being highlighted. This is so important because as we sit in our honest responses to what we are learning and what we're experiencing, especially when it's something new or when it's not something new, or if it's a different perspective, it allows us to expand how we approach what we're understanding and how we approach engaging with others. This is also a part of completing the narrative. The third step in completing the narrative is sharing your own narrative in honesty, of course, with the rest of the community. So, step three is letting us know how you feel, letting us know what you learned, and in honesty, be honest, it's okay, it's your experiences, own them, and what you'd like to do with that information going forward, how that will continue to shape how you engage with others going forward. So, those are our steps for this week's challenge. Again, this is our equity challenge, and it is about completing the narrative. Now, when we do our equity challenges, we always want to provide opportunity for these to be relevant and
Yes.
useful for yourself in the office space, in the education spaces, or in schools, as well as the community space. This practice of learning and then reflecting and then sharing honest narratives is something that we can provide and something that we can extend to everything that we're doing. This includes how we present opera. This includes how we educate our students. This includes how we engage with our communities. It requires that we learn, it requires that we expand, it requires that we tell the truth and look at the full story. So that is our equity challenge for this week. Of course, complete the steps. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what was difficult. Let us know what made you feel good. Let us know what allowed you to connect with others. I'm going to turn it back over to Kristian.
So, folks, you'll find that doing this particular exercise and learning some things will open your eyes. And I think it's very, very important. We say on this particular program a lot to question the narrative, question the things you've been taught, question what was in the history book that you were taught in school. And so, this is one of the ways of doing that because we've seen a lot of truth and history come to light just in the past 16 months alone. And
Mhm.
so, and Juneteenth was one of those for a lot of people. As a native Texan, this story is particularly important to me because I've never not celebrated it. And I know Quo here has never not celebrated this day. But I feel like with it now being recognized as a federal holiday and many offices and stuff are recognizing it as a holiday, we really need to do a deep reflection on what it means for our nation as a whole, and just for the world, because we do know our audience is international as well. more of our history needs to be put out there. The real story and the real narrative, that collective narrative that we all contribute to with our own experiences and background. And this is just one of those ways to start that. And if anybody understands this in opera, in the business, and we are in the business of storytelling, so I think it's very important for those of us that are artists, that are in administration, the ones that are responsible for creating stories and creating these spaces that we and these worlds that we create when we are doing opera productions, to remember that we work around narrative as well. And so this can help us in a lot of ways in our offices, with our staffs, with our artists in so many ways. So please take the time to do this. Let us know what you think. We have always said that we wanted this space to be a community resource and to be a conversation space where you all can interact with us. Once you learn what you have learned, if you don't feel comfortable putting it in the comment section, we encourage you to do that. Please feel free to DM us directly. We have Instagram accounts of our own that you can DM. You can DM the Dallas Opera and they will send it to us as well. So please feel free to do that. We just want people to understand that there's a reason behind this challenge, and that challenge and that reason is truth telling. And we have talked about that a lot, but that is how healing begins. That is how you begin this equity journey, is to begin in truth. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for continuing to stay with us. Thank you all so much for your continued support. We couldn't do it without you. Be bold, be creative. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.